Good evening. I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs Committee meeting to order. It is Wednesday, April 20th. We have one item on our agenda, order number 22-108-542, which references order number 13-100-5456B, which is an application for modification of a special permit from 587 Bolton Street Incorporated to allow for outdoor seating, a gazebo, and a bar area at 587 Bolton Street. Public hearing was held on April 11th, 2022, and closed. Mr. Stornaris, if you want to come and sit up in the well where we can see you, you can see us, we can ask you to...
Sit up here?
No, down here in one of the chairs. Well, you can, yeah, you might as well sit. You'll be more comfortable. I think they check to make sure they're on. There you go. Okay, so if you want to identify yourself, if you have any comments you want to make, otherwise I have a couple of comments of my own and we can open up the information.
Good evening. My name is John Stornaris. My wife and I own 587 Bolton Street, which is Bolton Street Tavern. We've been there approximately 12 years. When we first well, it was after the first year or so that we were there, we went for a permit to have an outside deck that would allow us to serve alcohol and food, increase the business. It's a beautiful spot, as everybody knows. You're right on the water there. You're overlooking the water, and really nicely manicured area there. That did increase the business. And then as we've grown the business, we talked about COVID, outside seating, growing the business even more, taking advantage of the property as more so than we do now, actually. We renovated the inside of the building to increase business and give a fresh look and a new look. And the next step is the gazebo project. We kind of we're not attorneys. We didn't approach it appropriately, I guess. There was that special permit that we didn't understand had to be amended, so that's why we're in front of you now.
Yeah, and I think it took everybody a little while to realize. You went through conservation, you went through site plan, and you went to the building commissioner, so you kind of got all the bases covered. You now need to come back to us for the amended special permit, as you said. So I know we got a new draft from that the council received, which I was happy had a little more information on it. I think that there are probably still some clarifications that I would like to ask, and then maybe other councilors have some more questions. So if you can talk about the food, and obviously you've got a bar that's on the design program, but is there a kitchen attached to the gazebo, or will people be coming from the main restaurant?
The food will be coming from the main restaurant. The alcohol will be brought out daily, but brought back in to the restaurant at the end of serving time. We're close enough, and our kitchen is big enough at the restaurant to be able to facilitate the extra seats and hopefully the extra business.
Okay, and that was approved by the Board of Health.
Yes, it was.
From John Garside indicating that he'd gone over your food plan, so that's clear. Will you allow people to bring food onto the property if they just want to sit at the fire pit or play at the sports area and have a drink?
We're not, according to our insurance, and I've dealt with this on different issues, not at the Marlborough location, but we have another location. You're not allowed to bring food from outside if it's not properly labeled because of allergies. There's different restrictions according to our insurer, so we're not going to allow that.
Okay, and if you have somebody who wants to rent the gazebo, would they be able to have a caterer bring food in?
No, we will strictly monitor it, because then we're responsible for liquor, outside food. The discussions we had with the ABCC, and we've had a few of them, their biggest concern always is monitoring and controlling the area, and that's up to us. So that's us, our manager, our bartenders, our servers, and we take that seriously. So we will be doing functions out there, but we will be doing them.
Okay, that's good to hear. And again, with the alcohol, I know that there was an additional piece of language put into the new draft, but will people have to be inside the gazebo to order a drink and get served, and then they can carry it outside to the outside, or can they order drinks from anywhere on the outside?
They have to be in the enclosed area. It won't be fenced in, but there will be there's a 3-foot fence partition that is actually the bar area and the gazebo. We were actually instructed to move the the bar area next to the gazebo so that could happen and function better.
Okay.
That was part of the ABCC. We worked quite a bit. I met with him 3 or 4 times. We spoke on the phone, and he was happy with our design when we finished it. And that was to accommodate his wishes. There's also the area coming from the deck across the parking lot that will be safely sectioned off seasonally, so that's enclosed, because it has to be, any liquor that's carried has to be in an enclosed area. It can't be in an open area. So that was one of the additions that we added on to the design.
Okay. Does anybody on the committee have questions other than what we've covered? I saw his hand, then I'll go to you. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just got a couple of questions. I'm assuming that the gazebo is going to get power?
Yes.
Okay. The other, is there going to be plumbing to the gazebo? Like, are you going to have a sink, hot and cold running water?
So we're going to have, they have designed their mobile sinks that carry water, that are sanitary for...
Self-contained?
Exactly. And we're going to be using those.
Okay, so basically, and you pull them in, pull them out, and it stores its own gray water and all that stuff?
Exactly. And you change them as needed. As far as the electricity, there already is electricity out there. We have those lights that we have power where we light up the trees, and we do Christmas lights and so forth. I have been told by an electrician what we need is already existing there.
Okay, okay. One other final question as far as, with the areas it's being set up, are you doing anything specifically for drainage, or are you just going to allow natural drainage of, because you're exposed to the elements, so you're going to get water collection and stuff. Is it just going to seep down to the, into the earth, or are you going to have drain pipes underneath to kind of divert the water?
Natural drainage, we did consult an engineer regarding that. We did go over that when we were in conservation. We made a couple of minor adjustments as far as the runoff, where there's an opening from the parking lot going into the grass area.
Yep.
And we did get a comment from our engineer that won't impact negatively the water drainage.
Right.
So it will be natural drainage.
Okay, okay, that's fine. No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Navin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad that you've already gone through conservation, because obviously everything around Fort Meadow is a sensitive area, and both for people who enjoy recreation there and people who live along the water. So I'm really glad to see you've already addressed that. As I mentioned when you came before us for the public hearing, happy to have this investment in the property, right? It's a gateway to it really is a gateway to the city from that side, from the Hudson border. And as I also noted, I have not heard any concerns from residents yet, which is great. But the whole purpose of this is to make sure we don't. Happy to see that the lighting is addressed, lighting down on Fort Meadow from abutting buildings and from up high. Can be a concern for the residents, right? Between lighting and sound, right? Things tend to travel across the water. So I'm glad to see that's already in there, except for the security lighting, and ask that you guys really kind of pay attention to making sure that, obviously the lights go off as required, and that security lights are there to protect your property, but also are angled down so they're not shining across the water. On that side of Fort Meadow, there's not a ton of homes on the other side, but there are some. And then finally, just from the sound, I know operating hours are until 11 on the weekends. Are you planning to do some sort of, I mean, I'm sure there'll be sound out there, there'll be music out there. Are you doing live music? Is that a plan, or just, music from pre-recorded?
Well, for functions, we'll be having some music.
Yeah.
But again, restricted by the hours.
Yep.
We do have I think the good thing that we're bringing to the table is a lot of experience, and we have a history. We're not just popping in and saying, okay, we want to do all this stuff from the beginning. I mean, we've proven ourselves to be good owners and operators, and especially during COVID, when we had 75 seats out there with the tent, we've already kind of had a practice run with this.
Yep.
So I think, and having the deck already prior for the last 10 or so years, I think we've kind of proven ourselves that we can handle this.
Yeah, and don't misunderstand me. That is an encouragement for you to have live music, because I live walking distance and would love to come down on a nice summer night and sit out there and enjoy it. But, I appreciate you guys being good neighbors, and just ask that you kind of keep that in mind, because it's an asset. It's an asset to the city. It's an asset to the neighborhood, so.
My best friend lives right across the lake. So I am very aware of, even though we don't have a ton of neighbors directly,
Yeah.
things travel.
Your phone rings pretty quick.
So we're very cognizant of the people on the lake around us. And everything we've done in that business, in that building, we've tried to improve it.
Yeah.
And, this is definitely a market improvement, I believe. And as I said, I think we've shown a past history that we've handled it well, and been cognizant of the city and what's going on around us. And this takes it another step.
Yeah, I think so. I wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you so much.
Council Wagner, did I see your hand?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. This is an exciting project. I think because you've had seating outside, it'll help answer the question. At first I saw this and I thought, oh good, it'll be fenced in, but then I'm realizing this is only a temporary fence to help with erosion during construction, right? And then it says it's going to be removed?
I think you're looking at two different fences there. There's one for the construction part, and then the gazebo itself, and around the deck, the bar area, there will be a fence. It'll be 3 feet high. And then there'll be a barrier, which every 6 feet, there'll be probably be a huge plot of flowers.
Okay.
Going from the deck across the parking lot to the
Because some
grass
kind of
area.
border, I think, will be helpful.
But it'll be all
so
the
people
way,
don't
it
just-
has to be for
Okay.
the liquor. And it'll be nice, we'll do it right. But there will be a fence area around the bar and the gazebo.
The fence, because a fence, bigger fence, made me think it would catch unintended litter that, like, in a windy day, everybody's napkin's gonna blow away. So is it gonna, what happened when you had the seating out there then? It's gonna, I would hate to see it all be blown into the water.
Well, the paper napkins would be the only thing that I could see actually going. And again, we did have the seating outside with COVID. We do have the deck. I'm not going to say there's never been napkins that have blown away, but, I pay somebody every day to go out there and pick up cigarette butts, pick up napkins, pick up debris that sometimes could come off the street. But I'm cognizant of that. We're very cognizant of how close we are to the water. We're very cognizant of how important you're coming up the causeway from the Hudson line. That's your first blast of kind of what's going on in Marlborough. So we take that seriously.
All
I
right,
hope that answers.
that is a concern. And is it, I mean, I suppose, so this has been approved, the sink concerns me. How many, I worry about cleanliness, so there's not going to be plastic cups, there's going to be service from the restaurant coming out, and so people are going to be busting that back and forth, and your bartender's going to use a temporary sink to keep their hands clean?
At functions, that's what, most functions, that's what happens. And it is sanitary. It's, they're functional sinks that have temperatures and where washing. But as
You
far as the
refill-
glasses,
Do you refill it? Like, how does it,
you actually fill it in, and then there's like a place where you press your foot, and it works. They're very expensive, but they do work. The glasses, the glassware, the plateware, we have a very big kitchen. It's a function kitchen there, actually. That kitchen can easily accommodate what we're doing.
okay.
So,
those will be
yes,
brought in now. So
everything
what happens
will
in
be
the middle of
done.
a really busy shift and the sink runs out of water?
We're gonna have two out there.
Okay,
And we've been very busy before. We will accommodate it. We will take care of it. It's not, on a plan, it looks a lot farther away from the building than it really is. And again, I go back to our experience with the tent and COVID and obviously being super sensitive to sanitary and what's been going on with COVID. And I think we handled it well. And John was comfortable with the plan.
excellent. Thank you. That's all I have.
Counselor Orm, did I see a hand from you?
Thank you, John.
Hi.
Working in the food industry as a food inspector, I understand the sink. They see a lot of those now because there's so many outside events, including farmers markets and other mobile food events, so it should work. But on the sink, though, we might as well start with it. Where do you drain that sink with the wastewater?
That will, all that will go into a container. That container will go back into the building.
Okay, so you have a setup to drain that water?
Yes.
then.
I've actually used those quite a bit.
Yeah.
We have outside in Natick, so we have a lot of experience with that. And busy.
Yeah, as long as it's emptied appropriately, and that's up to the Board of Health to make sure on that, but that's fine. You know, some of them actually will hose out too into a mop sink. You know, it depends on the style you're using, but you don't have to go into detail. I'm sure the Board of Health's gonna advise you on that, or
We
you
did.
already know.
I spent quite a few meetings with John and going over it and giving him the specs on it, and
Good.
what we're gonna use.
Another question I have is related to the seats that will be available outside. I think you mentioned it at our meeting to Councilor Doucette, but was it 102 that you said, or?
When we did the original plan, it was right in the middle of COVID when it changed the, how close the seats could be. So I believe I misspoke because with the COVID seating, I believe it was 68, and I believe it's 126 with the regular seating, not having the 6 foot. You remember we had 6
Yeah,
feet?
yes.
It changed, so that's why, and I'm not trying to, I misspoke, but actually it was because two different things. The plan was done according to COVID regulations, and then hoping that regulations would change. That's where we came up with 126 seats.
So the proposal for outside seating is 126, and inside, how many seats are you allowed up to?
We're allowed 200 seats
And 200
inside.
Which leads to the question, if I may, on the parking. Do you have sufficient parking for 326 seats?
We have we actually have 198 parking spaces.
So,
It's phenomenal parking there.
as long as you maintain them inside, no parking on other streets.
Absolutely
Including
not.
Bolton Street, we don't want cars out there. But that's good. If you have 300 parking spaces?
We have, 191 parking
191
spaces.
parking spaces.
Or 198, I'm sorry,
190.
including the handicap parking.
And I'm sure you'll monitor that too. If you start seeing off-site parking, I expect you'll monitor that to make sure it doesn't happen for the safety of everyone out there.
Absolutely.
And then audio, as long as it's good music. I actually heard your music on Halloween night because my family was outside, and it drifts, and I'm about a half mile from your location on the other side of the lake, and it was good. good music. But it does drift, especially depending on the wind, and that was a cold night, so it was probably a north wind coming my way. And here we are. But I hear the football games up at Kelleher Field, which is more than a mile away from my house. It depends on which way the wind's blowing. And I was curious on audio. You mentioned you will have some entertainment. Are you planning any other audio, like televisions or sporting events on TV?
We are planning one TV behind the bar area,
Okay.
but that, nothing, not broadcasted or anything like that. The direction of the wind, actually the temperature, a lot of things play into how the music carries. As I said, we've dealt with this over the years here and in Natick. Some of the music we have is not my taste. It's just what it is. I call it commercial viability. But we are cognizant of what's going on around us, and we'll be monitoring very closely. We always monitor our businesses, but when something's new, you're going to get some kinks, and you have to be more on top of it and more involved, and it has to be to make it more fluid. Yeah. So it works for the staff, for the guests, and for the kitchen and everybody involved.
And I'm glad to hear you say for the neighbors as well, because you're going to be cognizant of everything that's going on. That's the answer I was glad to hear, that you're monitoring.
My best friend lives right up the street, right on the corner.
Well, and you're in a great location, you are, and as Councilor Navin said, what a gateway to Marlborough. I mean, I remember, not that I was there, but my mother told me when she lived in Hudson, they would go to your spot to go swimming and then go to the snack shack afterwards, and that was a long time ago. But it's a great spot. It really is. You're very fortunate. We're fortunate to have you running it with the consideration for your neighbors, as well as you said, your staff and your patrons.
Thank you.
So I think it's going to work. But again, you never know. The kinks may show up. And even in the list of orders, it does mention that within a year, the chief of police, or even after that, or the ward counselor has any concerns. But if you run it right, I doubt if we'll ever hear of any concerns. So it's a matter, but if we do, it's a matter of working out the kink, in my view. So I appreciate what you said, that you're going to pay attention to it, monitor it, and that's so important, because it is outside. But I like being outside too in the summer, so I may be a patron myself, but a compliment to what you've done down there too, because I go there on Thursdays for Rotary meetings, and that new room you set up is a nice meeting room. Marlborough needed one. So just continue the way you are, and I think you'll be successful. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions? Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, just one more. John, just real quick, I know you'll be monitoring this, and I know it's coming up to the busy season. An extra 60 some odd seats outside, I got to assume, is going to have a pretty significant staffing requirement for you to set everybody up. Is the plan to open it slowly, to do just weekends at first, or are you going to, I know the permit calls for every day, but the plan to kind of open it up to get it going, do you foresee happening?
So it definitely will be impacted by the weather.
Of course, yep.
Which is a factor you can't control, obviously. But our plan is to open it every day. Our plan is also to bring staff from our other restaurant to help staff it.
Yep.
That have experience working outside, doing a patio. It's not exactly the same setup, but there are a lot of similarities. You can't just throw this at your staff and say, go ahead. Although there is a lot of experience with the tents and the outside seating right near where we're doing it. But no, we're not going to throw everybody into the wildfire. And when the weather is good, it is going to be very busy.
Yeah.
It is. And when people see it, it'll be an attraction. It'll draw people.
Absolutely.
But you'll also lose some of that business inside.
Yeah.
You'll see people they'll want outside, and your wait and what people are going to want is to enjoy that. won't get it every day. You'll get it weather permitting.
All right, so I was going to say, I'm going to read the information we got from department heads, start going through the permit, if people have questions specific as we go through it, unless you have something that's, Councilor Doucette.
Thank you, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just got one question. Talk about the restaurant in Natick. What's the name of that one?
Morse Tavern.
Morse Tavern? Okay, thanks.
Okay, so just so that everybody is aware, we did receive some comments from department heads that are required for special permits. First one is from Priscilla Ryder, the Conservation Sustainability Officer, who says that her only addition would be to include the following: additional plantings and landscaping and ongoing maintenance around the gazebo and bar area are encouraged to enhance the appearance of this new facility and are approved as part of this special permit. And I do have some language that's sort of that, but a little bit different, that I will read later. The building department has no objections or comments. From Mr. Tway, the building commissioner. Tom DePercio from City Engineering says we do not have any outstanding engineering-related comments on the proposed special permit. And from John Garside, first we got that we have received and approved the food establishment plan review for the proposed gazebo bar construction at Bolton Street Tavern and have no outstanding issues with the proposed project. And then he was asked about smoking outside because your original permit had no smoking signs that had to be put in place. His clarification was smoking is not allowed in outside dining bar areas. He was asked then, does that mean inside the gazebo or does it mean anywhere outside the gazebo, at the fire pit, in the sports area? And his final comment was all outdoor spaces where food and/or beverages are served to the public by employees, there's no smoking allowed. So I do have some language to kind of reiterate specific to this area, no smoking signs, and I think you were filled in on that and
Yes,
didn't
I
have a
was.
problem with it. So I'm just going to start going through the special permit language. It is, as it indicated, this is a modification to an existing special permit that was pulled when you had the attached outside area. So with the finding of facts, just give us all the information about who you are and what you plan on doing. And then we get down to, after the based on the above, the city council makes the following findings and takes the following actions. The applicant has complied with the rules and regulations. The city council finds the use in harmony with the intent and purpose. And then it's subject to the following conditions. Number one is about the construction, and it references the plans that were approved by site plan, and I would just only add in that we would add in that the applicant shall comply with the Conservation Commission Order of Conditions approved April 15th, 2021, and that can be added as a separate, I think all of this is going to go to the solicitor. He can decide in what order he wants it. Does anybody have any objection to that being added? Number two is a clarification on the hours. No patron shall be allowed in the covered outdoor seating area. Most of the hours are Sundays 10 to 10, Monday through Thursday is 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Friday and Saturday are 11 to 11. Number three says all work performed on the site shall comply with the decision. And number four is no service of alcoholic drinks in the covered outdoor seating area, bar, gazebo, sports area, and fire pit location to allow outdoor seating shall be subject to prior approval by the Marlborough License Board and the ABCC, which you have received both of. Number five is exterior lighting at the site shall be downward facing and shielding to minimize impacts on neighboring properties, and shut off outside of operating hours except for security lighting. Number six just says that all the other conditions in the special permit are still in full force and effect. And number seven is our standard provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A. So I do have a few others that I think after looking at this, that I would like to suggest go in there to, again, the comments that were made by Priscilla Ryder, the language, additional plantings and landscaping and ongoing maintenance around the gazebo and bar area are required to enhance the appearance of this new facility. The conservation officer shall approve the plantings and landscaping, and this condition shall have a 2-year look back from the date of occupancy. And that's just so that if these aren't done until the fall and it gets cold and anything dies, they'll be able to look at them and tell you to replant them. Does anybody have objection to that being added in?
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, just for clarification, the order would be up to the solicitor to figure out, right?
I would
Just-
think so. He can figure out if he
Yeah,
wants to add them at
yeah.
the end or change
Right.
the order of
Yep,
how things are there.
okay, just want to make sure that was clear, thank you.
We do need to add in the part where the applicant will install no smoking signs at all outdoor spaces where food and/or beverage are served to the public by the employee. Everybody okay with that? And then the final one, I would like to discuss, in the original permit, there was language, because we did have an abutter who was a little concerned about the noise. It talks about the green buffer. I guess the code requires that there actually be a permanent wooden or some kind of fence installed. The owner of the property at 30 Reservoir Street gave a condition that the living fence that's there was enough for him. He actually had to sign something and agree to that. So I don't know if we want to have that done again, considering there are potential new noises, or if we want to add in some kind of a condition that if the noise is significant, that you would be required to put in that fence. I'm not sure if this covers him regardless of the noise. Councilor Navin, did I see your hand? Do you?
I'm curious to know how big the current buffer is and what that would be required if there were to be a fence. How long is that property line shared?
I am not sure. The sentence just reads, given the existing green buffer serving as a so-called living fence between the site and a residence located at 30 Reservoir Street, written evidence of a fully executed agreement that they would not need to construct the minimum 6-foot-high solid fence.
John,
So
is
I
that-
believe there was a concern at Conservation that there was some cutting of that, and I don't know if that particular part was cut or somewhere else on the property. So you could,
Well, as far as the neighbor, when I went and I hand-delivered for our conservation meeting, we discussed the bushes there. They're actually a lot higher than 6 feet, and they're put together quite a bit. I mean, there isn't a distance between them. You can't see through them. And when they've died in the past, and a couple of them have, I've replaced them. So you might have one that's like at 6 feet, but the others are like 12. But that's going to get to 12 feet because we've replaced them. So I don't have a problem with, if we could do, if there is an issue, it'll be addressed by us immediately.
Councilor Wagner?
I would just share, I mean, if the concern was noise, a fence isn't going to have an impact on that. It felt like at the time that was more about privacy, keeping the property separate from this tavern, and that, if the bushes are doing that, I'd be fine with changing the language about the wooden fence, because it's not going to add to anything regarding noise.
No, it won't do noise, but it will do some privacy issues. So I guess I don't think this is that important. I would think that if there are noise issues, then neighbors will be contacting someone and let you know. If it becomes an issue, then I think it would come back to us, or it would come back to someone to make sure that outdoor noise, as you say, does carry. So sometimes it's hard to know for sure. All right, so we will not add that in. Does anybody else have anything that they feel is important to add that isn't either in the existing or in the, Counselor
I was
Navin?
just curious, just for timing, I'm sorry, I should have asked this before. Upon approval, if this is passed by the council, when are you ready to go? Do you have everything lined up? What's your target and how long's construction?
Yesterday?
Yep. You don't
Yeah.
say.
My hope is that I would get a suspension approved at Monday's council meeting, so this could be referred to the solicitor and be back on our agenda at the following meeting, which is
Madam Chair.
Counselor Ussing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did discuss with the solicitor, the assistant solicitor is actually working on this now, so if you finish your report, they might be able to submit the cleaned-up version of the permit for Monday's meeting, but it would have to be taken up under suspension, if you're okay with that.
I'm okay with helping get this done as quickly as possible. I know all of this was approved almost a year ago, so you've been kind of sitting waiting. If we can get a suspension on Monday, I can send this information off to the solicitor. I think he's been CC'd on a lot of this communication, so if that works for you and it works for everybody else, and all I need is a motion by someone.
Motion to approve as amended?
All right, it has been moved and seconded to approve the draft amendment with the additional changes, or with the additional information added to it. Is there final discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, that,
No,
No, 4.
I'm sorry, I'm,
Landry's is up.
well, 1, 2, 3, I can't even count. I'm counting myself, and 4. All right, regardless, it does carry. So I will report this out on Monday. We will ask for a suspension, and hopefully the language will be ready to go, and we can move on this.
Appreciate that. Anything we can do to expedite would be greatly appreciated.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? And we are adjourned at 7:08. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.